Welcome everybody once again to Banter. I'm old.
I'm bald.
And I'm lazy.
And she's lazy. Lazy. Oh, we're so happy to have you, Lazy.
Episode 1 of Old, Bald, and Lazy. And
I'm not really happy to be here, but yeah.
Starts off the show by lying.
So we've invited her. I don't know. What do you think, Bald? Like 3, 4, 5? How many episodes we had? 10 times?
Every episode.
Yeah, pretty much. And finally, when we got to the episode about embarrassing stories, she said, sure, why not? That sounds fun.
Well, you wouldn't quit asking. So, yeah. Thanks for having me. You know, I actively declined you for, I think, about the first 5 sessions. And then for about 3, I said I would maybe do it, but then found something else to do. And then I started to run out of excuses. So here we are.
We're nothing but persistent.
I'm okay with being a backup plan too. Like if you had other plans and those fell through, like whatever, like I'll take it.
Okay.
I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
Well, anyway, so now my camera's going in and out. See that?
Yeah, I did.
It's kind of like that must be what your eyes look like when you try to read like the newspaper. You're like,
sorry, our camera guy may have had too many drinks tonight, but you know, he's got back from vacation. He's a little wobbly. So this week I get the rant. So I get my 5 minutes of glory here. You want to get the stop
glory? That's already setting the bar way too high for this segment. Are you ready to rumble?
Wasn't expecting that, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, improv. Okay,
all right,
go ahead.
Start your watch. All right, so this week I had to talk a little bit, and I'm kind of doubling back up on one of them that I did a few weeks back when I was talking about like internet speed. That was the whole Al Gore, get your job together, get your crap together here. So this one is related, but it's more specific to streaming services. This drives me crazy, and it's got to drive a lot more people crazy too. Okay, I'm gonna try to name off as many as I can, right? Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime. Now there's HBO Max, there's CBS Now, there's NBC there's Peacock, right? There's all Disney Plus, and each of them has their own series and own movies that are original that you can only watch on their service that you then have to also pay for. Okay, that's the first infuriating part, is if I have a series and I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool, really interesting. Now I have to pay $12.99 to be able to get that particular series and watch it. And it's not like I can go, oh, I'll just wait until it comes out on another service because it's an original. So it won't go anywhere else. I have to pay that dollar amount to watch that one specific show. I'll give you an example. I love The Walking Dead. We got rid of cable, so we don't have that. We didn't have satellite anymore. We used to have DirecTV. Got rid of it so we could save money. Now we're getting to the point where we have to pay for all these services. AMC was one of them where you, in order to watch their shows streaming, you had to have cable or dish. They had no streaming service outside of that. Now they have a streaming service, but they make you pay more for their individual streaming service than you would have to pay for cable itself. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So my rant of the week, somebody needs to get their shit together and stop charging us an arm and a leg to watch a single series or a single show. Okay. Still, on top of that, right? A movie comes out on Amazon Prime, to rent it, $25. Rent the movie on a streaming service which doesn't have great quality. Terrible idea. So I can wait and pay my $3 to rent it later, or hope that maybe it gets to be free on one of those other services. That's my rant. Somebody's got to get it together. This is ridiculous, especially during this time in a pandemic. We need free internet. Somebody talk to Congress. It's got to change.
Wow.
I think Congress might be busy right now.
This is important.
Political podcast now, apparently.
I didn't say that. All I said was I think they might be busy.
Well, I just want to point out.
Serving the people. Mm-hmm.
Well said. Well said. The people needed to hear it.
Right. That was great.
Did you guys know there's a Discovery Channel streaming service? That's when I thought it was going off the rails. So I'm with you. But that being said, okay, moving on.
Had to get it off my chest. Thanks. Which I'm wearing a V-neck, so more chest showing this week.
A lot more camera on chest.
Ooh.
The camera guy just keeps panning down. It's getting ridiculous.
Somebody get that guy water.
Embarrassing stories. I have a good list of mine. I know Mr. Bald usually creates a list, but since we've got our wonderful guest here, Miss Lazy, do you have any good stories? And it could be, we originally talked about like family ones or beyond, but do you have any good ones that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so I didn't like formulate a list because I felt like that might have been, cheating a little bit. But fortunately, I'm embarrassing all the time, so it's not hard to think of examples. But I did think of a really good one actually from my first national meet. I was super nervous. It was the day of finals. I was like dry heaving, as peak nerves, could not hardly function, right? And so get dressed, put my uniform on, whatever, go to the meet, everything's fine. Get done with the meet, go back to the hotel, and I'm getting ready to change. And I realized that the entire time that I was running and out, out and about, that my spandex were on backwards. So in every single picture from that national meet, the logo is on the wrong side.
Oh,
Did not realize it till about 10 p.m. that night. So that's a good one.
Do you any of the pictures that are in the office with you, are they from that meet? Or any of them?
Not from that one. Not from that one. But I
you don't want to share
I have
those?
one. I have one. I can share it. Yeah. I just don't have it ready to go right now. But I'll show you.
So she could share it on the screen.
So you were just like, man, it must be these race day nerves, but my legs are feeling kind of just off. I don't know what it is.
Well, and the worst part too is that they were Under Armour ones that were really nice. So they're tapered and they're supposed to fit a particular way, right? I didn't notice at all because, I was worried about other things. And yeah, it's once you see the picture, you're like, that's not right. Yeah.
I'm imagining a lot of people were trying to tell you through subtle ways and jokes without trying to embarrass you. Oh, how do you think you're going to do today? You're like, oh, I think I'm going to try to win. And they were like, that's a pretty ass backwards idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess no one said anything. So I don't know if anybody else noticed. I told my other teammates that I was rooming with when we got back to the hotel, and we all laughed pretty hard about it. But as far as I know, nobody else noticed.
Maybe she was too lazy to turn her shorts around.
That was it.
I tried. It didn't work.
That's a thinker for sure. That'll be for the scholars.
Okay.
Is that Bo? Is she the next guest?
But she should be. That's another one that we've tried. Eventually, the Belgian will have to jump on board. So I have a number of them that are related to track and field and stuff. I mean, that one's easy because it's spend most of our life there doing that kind of stuff. The one that comes to mind is when I was coaching. For me, I was coaching throws for the first time back in 2007, because I'm old, hence the name. And I was giving some instructions, which I was a new coach and especially new to the throws. Somebody was throwing the weight and we were in this little gym. You can imagine it'd be like 1 court of a basketball court, right? So a really small gym, but it was the only place that we could throw at this particular school. Now that, of course, they have an indoor track, this whole thing. But so the girl I'm giving her instructions and I tell her the last little bit, and as I'm walking away, and she just goes ahead and starts spinning as I'm walking away from her, but down the line, because there's no space to go. I needed to go outside the door so I didn't get hit. So I'm walking that way. She spins and she releases, and then she goes, oh shit. And I was turned, caught my eye, and actually was able to get my hands up, and it hit me in the side of the face. and in the shoulder and knocked me to the ground. And it was one of those where you knew something bad happened, and then you get up really fast. You know how you get up really fast, you slip on the ice. And you're
like, oh, I'm fine. Everyone, don't look over here. I'm fine.
Keep going. So I did that, and I kind of got like that, but except I got up and I like stumbled again because I obviously had a concussion or something, but I didn't want her to feel bad. So I was trying to like get up. And so I was stumbling, I fell down again, and so it was embarrassing. And I actually got hit by a weight. Could have died, actually.
Yeah.
That's a coaching incident. Wild.
That's like less embarrassing and more like life-threatening. I don't know if life-threatening events count as embarrassing.
It's still embarrassing.
Yeah, it's more of like
as a coach, it's kind of embarrassing. I should know better. Come on, turn your back to somebody throwing.
I mean, it was 2007. That was only like your 40th year coaching.
You were just a young pup.
That's true. It was now when I go to track meets, I'm on a swivel, man. I'm looking everywhere. I'm looking down runways. You ever seen that video of the guy going down the long jump runway, and that woman's not paying attention and she's not looking, and he slams into her, and they both just like, yeah, that's what I think of.
It's like my worst nightmare. Yeah.
I've seen little kids get hit on tracks, like little kids running across, and like people are running a 400 or something, and that's scary.
Classic.
We went in a different direction with that one.
We did.
Corral your kids.
So here's one that's just happened. And I think you guys are both aware, if not just Lazy is aware of this one because it's hilarious. But I was doing a campus tour, right? We happened to have a parent on the tour who said they were a musician. Well, during COVID-19 times, of course, I'm like, oh, a musician, it must be hard to get gigs since like bars aren't open. Thinking like, yeah, he plays bars, and like, what else would a musician do, right? Except like go out in public and, play in a band. Like I'm imagining he's like a garage band and he plays the bass, like whatever. He's like, oh, it's actually like classical orchestra. I'm in like pit band. We do musicals. And I'm like, oh, this guy like spent his life at school like learning music theory. And I just asked him if he's having trouble getting jobs because the bars are closed. So after he said that, I was like, yeah. Well, anyway, if you're gonna look over here, it's like moving on with the tour. And I was like, there's no comeback for that one. Just there's one thing I've learned in the last few years. It's sometimes talking less is the play. You can't talk your way out of all of them.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I remember that story now.
Yeah.
That dad.
He was like a professional like opera musician for like Broadway. It's not your finest moment.
And I was like, yeah, tell me about it. I've been trying to go to Icky Ricky's for weeks and just can't get in there.
Moving off stage. Wow. Yeah, that's embarrassing. I feel for you. I'm sorry.
That guy was probably just like, wow, this guy's pretty dumb.
This guy's an idiot.
What an idiot.
Honey, take a picture.
Oh, good flick.
Another one for the scholars.
Wow. This is just circling around and around down the toilet hole we go. So Miss Lazy down there, I know you have one that's pretty recent that I'm sure you have to talk about.
Oh, I'm not a recent one. Oh, does it have something? Is this another pants story? Why are all my stories related to pants? Okay, so.
Hey, I put my pants on just like everyone else, 2 legs at a time.
Okay, so you know what's funny too, actually, is in college, I had a habit all the time, like after races, I would put my pants on backwards, and my teammates would have to come tell me. So it's part of what like makes the national story kind of funnier. Yeah, it's a long story. Okay, they're like black Asics pants. They look basically the same front or backwards. I wouldn't know until someone was like, "Hey, your logo's on your ass." I'm like, that's not really like it's not where that should be. But anyway, yeah. So this next story is also a pants story, in which it's not really that dramatic, other than I was trying to stretch a little bit. I was sore from working out, and I squatted down and was kind of stretching, and my pants ripped. And I've never ripped a pair of pants before, so that was probably my more significant achievement so far of 2021.
And she almost did it again today.
That might have some truth to it.
I wonder what the world record is.
For a number of times tearing pants.
Honestly, they track so many things, but like how many pairs of pants ripped in like 1 hour is probably a record. Like someone just like squeezed into a pair of skinny jeans that does like a squat really hard or something, and like, I don't know, get sponsored by Levi's to like try to rip 100 pairs of jeans or something.
I bet you Thanksgiving is like the most ripped pair of pants like of the whole year, right?
I wear stretchy pants on Thanksgiving.
Well,
I'm not even exaggerating. Like I have jeans that stretch, like stretchy jeans. So I wear straight.
That's all I wear, period. So
what's that movie?
In the words of Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre.
Sometimes when you are a man, you wear stretchy pants. It's for fun.
It's for fun. Yes, of course. Of course.
I assume that's what you were going for, right?
That's exactly what I was going for. I own one pair of skinny jeans. Now the issue is since my running for a little while kind of took a downturn, those won't fit me. So I could join you in the torn pants category if I really wanted to try.
I'm sorry, you have skinny pants?
I have skinny jeans. Banana Republic.
You're a millennial, so right? Are you?
I don't know. I think I'm on the border. No, we had this conversation. I think it was last year.
We've looked this up many times. I feel
there's another category, and I don't remember what the name of the category was, but there's another category that fills the gap between Generation X and I think it's Generation X and millennials. I can't remember what it was.
Generation Y.
No, Y is after. I think Y is after.
No, Gen Z is after millennials.
I don't.
Because if Gen Z is after millennials, then Y had to be somewhere, right?
I don't know. Because I'm on the edge. So what they describe it as, if I remember correctly, millennials has to do with kids that grew up without the internet, right? So millennials are kids that grew up always having the internet present. Like it was always a thing to all the kids in that generation. So I'm on the bubble of that because when I started, showing my age, I did not have
which
access.
Is a large number. Mm-hmm.
I did not have access to the internet. I was a sophomore in high school. So now there were people that had it. There was people that had dial-up and very slow like DSL internet and stuff like that. But probably freshman year. Actually, I probably should say freshman year of high school. Because then I joined the technology club and the dorkness began.
AV club and Glee club and even the chess team.
I was.
Federal, yeah.
That you're not exaggerating. I actually was a part of all of those things. I was on the chess. I was in the chess club. President of the technology club. I was in all the choirs, and I was an athlete. So
unfortunately, I know a lot about you. So
athlete.
I was not a mathlete. I can tell you that. That was one thing that I didn't.
We couldn't even do math in the office today. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. So if you want to come to our university, you may want to look at a tutor other than us. Not going to work so well for you.
True.
Yeah, there's no help there. Yeah.
Yeah. Other things we're kind of good at, I think. Sometimes.
Depends.
We're good talkers.
We can do that.
Except the one thing that didn't work, this was such a bummer. This is not, we're getting so far off embarrassing stories. This is one thing I want to say off this track one more time. We had a pair of walkie-talkies, and we were so excited to bust out walkie-talkies. Could you imagine how much fun and hilarity would have ensued over if we were able to use those walkie-talkies during the year? But one of them didn't work.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed about that. Should have tested them before the meet. Because we really need walkie-talkies. We all have cell phones. We could just. Yeah.
True. It is
It's
kind
the
of right. It's
aesthetic.
like a,
Walkie-talkies does make you feel like you're a trucker or something, though.
It's like people who like have vinyls of like they don't have something you get at a record player and you play it on the vinyl. It's just better.
Music is better on vinyl.
it's like living in the 80s. Jack and I don't know what that's like, but
I did live in the 80s. Most of them.
Yeah, I never had one of those ones where you crank the side and the big horn on the top. Or
Well, those were killer, man. Great sound. Great sound. The 8-track, good stuff. I actually had an 8-track player in one of my cars that I had.
Oh.
Anyway.
what year did they stop making those? Like 75?
That could be that could be a interesting story. My first car was, I think it was a 1971 Buick LeSabre, 4-door, big boat of a car.
Great vehicle.
Great vehicle.
Bench seats in the front.
Had all leather, red leather interior, no air conditioning. That was terrible in the Midwest in the summertime. And AM only radio. So my family just loved me. They had to give me this thing. So this is probably embarrassing, but I bought a boombox. So this sounds like 80s, 90s type stuff, right? So I bought a boombox, set it in the front seat next to me, and we had to get batteries for it, right? So you had like these 8 like D batteries in the back of. So then we sat it next to us in the bench seats, and that particular seat was saved for the boombox, so nobody could sit there.
We'd see. I really want to make.
Sounds like an 80s movie right there. It sounds like an 80s movie.
Sure.
Anyone who's ridden in my car knows that I will start my car. I will say, hang on, let me plug in the aux cord, reach under my seat, get the wireless speaker, put it on the dashboard. I do the same thing, except in a smaller, my speaker's like this big. So it's just a little boom box. Like,
I have not been in your car. I did not know that.
Yeah. Carly, I don't know if you have written. You typically
I have witnessed. Yeah, I have witnessed your aux cord or your version of it. But so funny story about first cars actually. So my first car was a 1988 Cutlass Sierra, and it was my great grandma's car, and I got it with 27,000 miles on it in 2008. Okay. And this baby rode like a cloud, like he was bench seats in the front, blue velvet interior. Okay.
Ooh,
it was amazing. It was amazing. And drove it all through high school. And then my sister had it. And then it's kind of been passed around in our family a little bit. And her name was Priscilla. She was baby blue, gorgeous. And she literally just went to the junkyard officially like last week. So it's funny you bring up first cars. I know. It was great.
Oh.
I know.
They did that with mine too. So my car got passed to my brother. I don't know what happened to it after that. It was from my grandfather. When he passed away, I got the car, and then my brother took it. And my brother like actually put speakers. He put like a full system in it, I think. So, but it's a sad day.
I know.
A long time then.
I'm still on my first one, so.
Yours fits, Bald. It just fits you. I think it just fits your person, because you're just like, money, stuff.
What are things?
What are things and stuff? I like it. I think it's a perfect car for you. I don't think you should ever change. Be you. Be you.
I will.
I have my list here, but I want to hear from Mr. Bald again. What do you got for some? Give me something from your childhood, man. What's a good one from your childhood?
Excellent question. Well, I have one on the top of my head right now that's not necessarily about me, but it is about when I was a freshman in high school. So it could be embarrassing for me because, stupid high school freshmen do stupid high school freshman things, right? It's funny. And then people say, what were you thinking? And then we say, I wasn't, which is true. So me and one friend in high school, as we would leave at the end of the day, after 8th period was over, we'd walk to the locker room together, get ready for practice, right? And we would change for practice and we would see, okay, who can take off their shirt the fastest? We did this often. We would ready, set, go, right? Now, one day he's wearing a white t-shirt. I remember this vividly. Ready, set, go. And I take my shirt off and I look and he's stuck. And I was like, you all right in there? And he had punched himself in the nose trying to take his shirt off. And there was blood all over his white t-shirt. Just he goes, boom, boom, and gets stuck here and just hit himself on the way up and then just started bleeding all over the place. So, hey, why is there blood all over your shirt? And I said, well, he was, we race every day to see who can take their shirt off the fastest, as you do. And
did you feel dumb saying that out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense if you really. Guys do things. I don't know.
Guys do a lot of embarrassing things that we don't quite get embarrassed about. It just depends, right? We do a lot of just random weird competitions and stuff like that. Often, it's just a thing. Lazy, what do you got?
Well, as I said, I'm a very
you and Carrie, right? There's got to be something there.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. I mean, truthfully, the nursery rhyme. What is it? The one with the goose, right? Like the ugly duckling, whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. I was very much the ugly duckling from I'm not exaggerating, 7 to 20, probably. Okay. And so in that vein, I have it was the whole time was embarrassing in a lot of ways. I was picked on for being kind of awkward and not cute and just whatever. So it was kind of generally embarrassing. So there's a lot of stories in there. But the one that you're talking about specifically, I think I know we've shared the story previously. Was my sister and I were at summer camp and we were learning how to play tennis. Okay. Not a ball sports person, generally speaking. I don't have a lot of interest in tennis. My only goal was to hit the ball as hard as I could. And that was really the extent of my tennis skills, I would say. But my sister claims accidentally, okay? It's unsure, it's unresolved at this point. But so I went to go pick up a tennis ball next to her, right as she perfectly placed a backhand serve into my temple and knocked me out at summer camp in front of all the other kids. So I woke up dazed and confused on the tennis court with Carrie crying, very upset, yelling that it was an accident. And yeah, I basically had a concussion and everybody was staring at me and they had to call my mom and I went home early. And I just remember being very embarrassed that I was assaulted by none other than my own sister.
All right.
Yeah, it's rough.
Confused. Oh.
It's better than I woke up on the tennis court and it was dark and everyone was gone.
Right, that'd be a crime, probably. A neglect.
Everybody run! Start the car! Go!
Now's our chance. Yeah.
I may or may not have a story like that, but it's not appropriate to necessarily share on this particular podcast. I'll save that.
You could change the names of the characters.
Oh, good. To protect the innocent.
We shall circle back.
Most of mine happen to do with injury as well. It seems there's a common theme as I look through my list. I'm like, huh, weird. So I'll go down the line on a couple of them to give you some. So I was big into karate and stuff, or sorry, I never did karate, like, but I liked watching Jean-Claude Van Damme movies and Karate Kid and stuff like that. So I think I was like, I don't know, I was like 9 or 10, and I was in the living room and nobody was home, and I was like kicking to a movie and stuff, going, hey, yeah, and all this stuff. And I kicked out a window of our door with my bare foot, like went straight. You know how you have doors that have like the square blocks, like going all.
Yeah.
Right? So I kicked right through the front door, and my foot's like hanging out. And then my stepdad comes home, and he wasn't a very nice person. So I was deathly afraid I was going to get in like big trouble. And my foot's all bloody, and I'm wrapping it with a towel. I'm like, I'm sorry, I kicked out the window. And he just laughed. He thought it was the funniest thing that he'd ever seen, that I was karate kicking in the living room and kicked out a window. So that's one. I don't know if I want to do that one. So 2, I have 3 of them. So 2 is when I was in kindergarten. This is one of my very first memories. I did not make a green choice, as Carly's shirt says. I made.
See that? I'm rocking our new shirt.
Love
today.
that you rocked that.
Yes, I had to.
Make green choices, y'all.
Among the 2 founders of the phrase itself.
Yeah.
I know. I felt like it was appropriate, and I don't know if I made a green choice coming on this thing, but remains to be seen.
TBD. TBD. So when I was in kindergarten, I kind of had, I guess you would call it undiagnosed ADHD. We'll say that. Anybody that knows me, when I get on my rants and I talk and blah, 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 and I go, same thing. So I was waiting.
Try sharing an office with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, shut your mouth.
Wow.
So I was waiting in line to turn in like an assignment or like a coloring thing or something like that. And there was a stapler on the end of the desk. And I was just tapping the stapler and going like this. And I put my finger on it, or put my hand under there and went, and I stapled my finger to the desk. I have a scar. I'll have to show you guys sometime. There's a scar on my finger. Yeah. Stapled my finger to a desk when I was in kindergarten. You know what happened back in those days? It wasn't a big fuss. You go up to the nurse, they took some pliers and just went, oh, cool. Ripped it right out. Didn't have to go to the hospital, nothing like that. So they ripped my hand, they took my hand off the desk, and then they ripped it out in the nurse's office. So
luckily the nurse happened to have a bottle of tequila on hand to sterilize it.
That's what they did. Yeah.
Only for that though, for no other reason.
Just for that.
When I drink tequila, it's a good song. Dan and Shay, Okay.
Ooh.
Typically I don't remember, but
so
last
one. This one happened 2 years ago while fishing. So we were fishing up in northern Wisconsin area, like my wife's family likes to do fairly often. We were in a cabin, all that stuff. We were out on a boat, and it was late in the day. We were about done. I was going to do one more cast, one cast, come and get a fish, get I think it was a smallmouth bass, pull it out, and instead of grabbing it by the lip, I grabbed just the whole fish itself, and it flopped, and the hook came out, or the hook didn't actually come out of the mouth, but the hook caught me. It was a treble hook, and it wrapped up into my thumb. And on those treble hooks, right, it's got that little hooked edge to keep it in. And so I was connected to a hook, which was also then still connected to the fish on my thumb. Stupid. So then we finally get it off the fish, but it's on me. And so the story gets better. We can't get it out right there quickly because they think it's stuck in a tendon or something, and we can't. So trying to jiggle it out, trying to get out, which hurts like hell if you've ever had to happen. It's a small little hook, but it hurt. So we get back to the cabin. This is the genius that happens next. We'd all had a few drinks while out on the boat, so nobody's really quite got things figured out. My mother-in-law is a nurse. She was there. My sister-in-law is a doctor. She was there. And my brother-in-law is a paramedic. So they're all there. Again, people had had a few drinks. So we go up to the cabin, and my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law think, oh, we can get that out. We can get that hook out. That's not a problem. So we go, and they're like, okay, we don't have anything to like sterilize, and what are we going to use? So they started with the alcohol. So we were drinking alcohol. I don't remember what it was. I think it was whiskey. So poured whiskey on, and then I'm drinking a glass because it hurts and all this kind of stuff. And they're going to try and like cut the hook and then see if they can get it out. So then they start putting as like another antiseptic because it didn't have anything, Vagisil on my thumb to help out. So it's Vagisil on my thumb, some sort of alcoholic beverage, which I can't recall. And her mother, my wife's mother, starts trying to cut with a kitchen knife because it's stuck. So they're like, oh, we'll just try to cut it. So we'll just keep drinking and you'll be fine. We'll cut it. So they're trying to cut to create space to allow the hook to slide out easier. So they're cutting my skin in a kitchen, in a cabin in the middle of northern Wisconsin. So it gets better. She's like, oh, this knife is too dull. We need to sharpen it. So they're off to the side over the edge of the kitchen, sharpening a knife while I'm sitting here with Vagisil on my thumb so that they can cut it out, a hook from a fish out of my thumb. Finally, she starts cutting and it's hurting so bad. I'm like, we got to stop. We're going to the emergency room. Enough of this. I can't do this anymore. So it hurt so bad. And at that point, I had enough to drink that I was a little bit tipsy too. So at least it felt slightly better. So Mandy's dad hadn't had very much to drink. And so he's like, okay, we'll drive you to the ER. Again, this is the middle of nowhere, northern Wisconsin. The closest ER was 35 minutes away. So they drove me to the ER, Mandy, her dad, and me. And then we waited for another 30 minutes. And of course, you go into a place like that in northern Wisconsin and they just have to make jokes. They say, oh, you should have threw him back. They're yelling at my wife and stuff. And so I get in there.
Would have been a good idea.
And the doctor literally takes him about maybe 60 seconds. They actually have a kit for fish hook removal. It happens so often up there. They have a kit for fish hook removal. I don't
know if I'm proud or lazy to be from Wisconsin right now.
They go up. It has wire cutters in it. Cut the wires, and then they just fed it. They numbed it. They gave me a little quick shot to kind of numb the area, just like they do with your teeth and stuff like that. Like a little quick thing, and then he just goes, whoop, spins it right out, and then we get a Band-Aid on, out the door, gone.
So did the doctor say, "Wait a minute, is this Vagisil on here?"
We did not tell them what it was. I have a picture on my phone if you want to see that has a little bit of the Vagisil still left on there and the hook still in it and the whole thing.
I'm just imagining like the amount of stuff on it. Like you're like, oh, wait, never mind. Let's try peanut butter this time. And then like you come into the doctor's office and
it's just like a layer of stuff on it.
What is that? Like, it's like a 7-layer dip on top.
7-layer salad is also a Midwest dish, I think.
Super Midwest. Sorry to our East Coast listeners.
Right?
I was eating fish tacos and he still had a hook in him. Yeah. So I know that was a long story, but that was just a couple of years ago. Quite embarrassing.
That's classic. That is so classic.
True story. Actually happened.
That's tough to follow.
Yeah.
I think you're up.
I'll start by saying this. As a child, I was typically pretty queasy. I was a fainter for sure. And no longer.
I like this story already.
It's not a thing anymore, really. Like since I've been in anatomy classes and like worked on cadavers and like no problems, right? But back in the day, it would be like, oh, a drop of blood. Oh, and then like get kind of wobbly, you know? Or like if like you see someone else throw up and then like, you know, you lose it. So as a kid, this was multiple times where like, you know, I went to Catholic school. So you're like in church or something on like a Friday morning. And like all of a sudden, like in the middle of church, you just like get a thought of like, oh, remember that time that person threw up? You're just so like that was kind of the narrative. So that followed all the way until like sophomore year of high school. I remember health class where the teacher was talking about like, hey, we're going to talk about like, like the STD unit. So like trigger warning to everyone, like, if you're going to like, if you feel weird about these things, just like step out of the room. And like, a few people who were like self-aware and mature were like, not for me, see you later, step out in the hallway. I, on the other hand, I can't believe they're leaving. This is, who cares, So naturally, I sit through it. And I'm a little fuzzy on why, I don't know if this is an Illinois thing or what, but like, why in the curriculum of high schoolers are we showing pictures of these things? It's like, you could have just told me about it. But to put a picture of like very gross STDs on a slideshow and show to a bunch of 15-year-olds, I'm just saying if I was writing the curriculum, I might skip that next year. Anyway, when we got to that part, I'm feeling it and I'm just like, oh, starting to wobble a little. So I'm sitting at my desk and I'm like, I'm just going to get up and say, I have to go to the bathroom. Now in my head, it went very smoothly. In my head, I raised my hand, said, can I use the bathroom, and walked out. What probably happened was not like that, because as I walked out, the teacher was fast behind me. So I'm assuming I was wobbling my way out the door in front of the entire class. And as I got in the hallway, she's like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? And I said, yeah, I just need to go to the bathroom real quick.
That's great.
So
it
was not fine.
Not fine. Not fine at all.
Have not fainted recently.
I have.
Ah.
I have. A month ago. 2
Well,
months.
You did.
2 months ago, I fainted giving blood. A couple of months ago. Yeah, it's my fault. It's my fault. You're supposed to eat a really big breakfast, like if you do it in the morning. You're supposed to eat a lot before you go in. I just had some toast. It was my thing. So I just had some toast, and I can donate a lot of. I'm O negative, so I can donate double red blood cells, which I tried to as often as I can. But I tried to do it that morning, and I don't know how long it was into it, but it was like no time at all. It was pretty. Mine was a little more relaxing though, because you're in the chair and it's just like you're falling asleep, and then you're having a dream. They're like, Nick, wake up, wake up. Are you okay, Nick? Wake up, wake up. Are you okay? Did you eat something today? Do you want something to eat? We should get you some pretzels.
Here's a donut.
And so I'm just like, I'm okay. So you're just sitting there super embarrassed, and you have to wait until your color really comes back, until you finish like the 2 bags of pretzels they've given you and your whole soda, until they'll let you get up and walk away. And so the whole time you're just like, oh, sorry, embarrassing. Did I donate any blood today, or get off 5 minutes in? Yeah, so that was actually quite embarrassing for a 38-year-old.
They were like, how many calories did you have this morning? And you said, well, I mean, I knew I had to have a big breakfast, so I had 4 cups of coffee this morning instead of 3.
The classic old breakfast.
Probably did have 4 cups of coffee and toast. That is that is my classic breakfast, actually.
Or I'm down to a single hard-boiled egg.
My name's Lazy, not Liar.
Truth. There are a lot of truth out in tonight's episode. So this is something I thought about. It's not necessarily, this is not an embarrassing story, but it's related to embarrassing stories, I guess. So I find it interesting that it seems like nowadays embarrassing stories can make you money. Right? It used to be embarrassing stories you just kept to yourself, and it was just embarrassing. You didn't want to tell anybody. But now, if you have a social media account, or if you're on TikTok, or you're on whatever, Snapchat, you can make money and be really, really famous for doing something really embarrassing. And so people like try now to do things that seem embarrassing so they can like get popular. Isn't that interesting?
Well, hey, I mean, America's Funniest Home Videos, like they were doing that back in the day.
That's true.
I still laugh at that show, even now. Still laugh.
Oh,
My
Bob
wife.
Saget,
My
America's
wife loves
sweetheart.
that stuff. She loves slapstick, like people getting hurt. She laughs hysterically. People fall down the steps.
And this is why I like your wife. That's why, yeah.
Answer me this, because I've been wondering. I actually thought of this like last week, but like, why is that like? It's got to be like hardwired into like human biology at this point. When we see someone like fall, when we see a guy get hit in the crotch with a golf club, like we just laugh. Like,
funny.
what is it? Because like it's before people teach you that, but like if someone slips on the ice in a funny way, like there could be like a toddler there who's like 2 years old and they're laughing their heads off. Why is that?
That's a good observation. I hadn't really thought of that.
Like, I don't know, it's like dog eat dog world, you know? Like, oh, at least it's not happening to me.
That could be. Could be a
Yeah.
connection there. I can see that.
As in like if this person goes down for good, there's less food to share.
Survival of the fittest. Right.
So you're just laughing. You're like, like a cruel laugh. You're gone.
This year's harvest got a little bit bigger.
More sliders for me.
I love sliders.
That's why I said that. I know. She enjoys sliders.
I just made them. Anyway, not important. Okay, I have another embarrassing story to get us back on track. So this is funny for a couple of reasons. One, because the story itself is funny, and it's also funny because I ended up being an English major, right? So in the third grade, I was a bit more shy as a child, and I struggled in school a little bit. Like it wasn't necessarily my thing, and I would get really nervous every year. I went to a private school, like kindergarten through sixth grade, and then we had a spelling bee every year. Okay, and it gave me a immense amount of anxiety. Okay, so I'm not sure if this was like second grade or third grade. I don't know. I think it was second grade. I'm not sure. But I was, again, so nervous, similar to the story that I told previously. Luckily, I've gotten over my nerves a little bit now in my slightly older years. Not quite as old, but like a little bit better. So anyway, so it's like this, right? It's like second grade, and my whole class, it's actually, so it's a small private school, right? So every class is in the gymnasium, and we're standing up by class to like do our word, right? Okay, so I I stand up, so it's my turn. I stand up, and the pastor who was doing our spelling bee says, "Carly, your word is jog." Like I went for a jog. Okay, and my nervous little self. Okay,
which that statement isn't true even today.
Hence lazy.
Oh, I don't jog. There's a reason my name's Lazy. Right? Yeah, I don't jog.
Oh, this is where it comes.
Maybe this is why. This
is it. This like, embarrassing moment.
Deep seated. It's like deep seated somewhere. Right.
The origin story.
So, this is it. And so I'm so nervous. I stand up. I was on one of those like those metal chairs, right? And I just like slide off the seat. I'm like sweating and I'm nervous. And I stand up. I'm like, jog. And I know how to spell jog, obviously, right? Like I'm not an idiot. And I stand up and I say G-O-G. And they're like, oh, no. And I sit down and I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do? I'm like, I know how to spell that, but I was so nervous. I don't know if I just started to spell it backwards, like maybe I'm dyslexic. I don't know what's happening, but yeah, that's like one of my more embarrassing ones. Cause then it's funny, cause what's interesting too is I was actually a very good speller and like did really well and like that kind of stuff, and then English, and then that was my major in college. But yeah, like second grade spelling bee, got out on the word jog.
That's it. Now I think we've solved this problem. We know why you don't like to run.
Isn't that interesting?
That
I know. It's amazing I ever went out for track. I don't know what happened.
It's like, I'm thinking of from an adult perspective to that story, like the teacher running the spelling bee, like there are two teachers probably sitting at a table and one of them just looks at the other one and was like, can we just give it to her? Like,
it's fine. It's fine.
Like, no.
She was close.
Not fair to the other kids though.
2 out of 3. Yeah, 2 out of 3 letters, right?
Let's see. We could give her.
That's a true embarrassing story. That's a real one.
Let's tee up a word. We could give her Mississippi. That'd be pretty hard. Like we could give her something that. We'll put one on a T for. Let's give her jog. Okay. What the hell?
And she still fumbles at the 1 yard line.
It was so bad. It was so bad. Oh God, it's true. Totally true story.
Oh, gotta love it. Gotta love it.
So I know I said that I hadn't fainted recently, but I've been, the embarrassing story juices are flowing, and every embarrassing story that you guys tell reminds me of something that I've done. And I hope that's reciprocal here. But the thing is, I don't count this as fainting necessarily, okay? Because it wasn't my fault. So, first of all, to all my Crohn's and ulcerative colitis friends out in the world, to our community, never be embarrassed of a colonoscopy. Colon health is important. Now, this story centers around that. Coming out of anesthesia after a colonoscopy, I was set to get blood work done. Now, I'm not a person who handles anesthesia particularly well. It is very fun for me. However, I'm like the stereotype of like the person who gets their wisdom teeth pulled and then it's just like full of gems for the rest of the day. That's me every time I'm on anesthesia. So I'm in the same hospital. So I wake up from anesthesia. I'm super loopy and all that. I get taken to another part where they're going to draw some blood. So they start drawing blood and they're like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Similar to how you were getting your blood drawn, you kind of just, difference is I'm already loopy. So I'm kind of like already like very wobbly. They start drawing blood and I just go cold and just completely limp like that. And I remember like I was awake but couldn't move, and like I was conscious but like not conscious. So I remember the nurse like slapping me in the face like this, right? And I wanted with everything just to scream, stop slapping me. But like I was like completely like out. Like I couldn't move, couldn't talk, but I could feel her slapping me in the face. And I was getting so mad. And like in my head, what she was doing was just like, wake up, don't like, it just, that's what it felt like. Yeah. So, and to me, I was just like, oh my God, she is just absolutely beating me right now. And this is annoying. And I finally like come out of it. And she's like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? I'm like, you know, and then she like looks at my chart. She's like, oh, are you coming off anesthesia right now? It's like, yes. And she goes, oh, we should not have drawn blood. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that on anesthesia at all. And I was just like, why did you keep slapping me then? Like, it was just the worst. And just like, I was completely out of it. But that poor nurse, she was probably actually worried. And that was her response to the concern. But like, it's like when you drink and you know what you want to do, but you're not doing it.
I've never been on anesthesia. I don't think.
Oh, it's great. It's a good time.
It's a trip. Yeah,
do you
sure.
Do you have your wisdom teeth?
Oh yeah. Them all.
They must not work.
I don't know what that means.
That's hilarious. That is
funny.
Hilarious.
Laughing gas? Have you had that before?
One time. Well, have I?
That's what I had when I had my wisdom teeth out, actually, and I was floating above my body. I was floating above my body, and it was very odd and off-putting experience, and I did not really enjoy it. And the doctors laughed at me, and that was kind of like a form of like an embarrassing experience. And then they walked my wobbly self out to my college roommate, Rachel, who was the hero in this story, and drove me to Target to get my painkiller prescription. And I remember on our way to Target, leaning over in her front seat like this as I bled into my hands from my wisdom teeth. It was bad. It was awful. That's like a little bit more like sad, painful, but like also kind of embarrassing. But it ended up being really funny after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be that's embarrassing. Yeah. Gross. Yeah.
A lot of these will start and say, I have this embarrassing story. And then by the end of it, we're like, actually, that was kind of traumatic.
That was kind of sad. Yeah, that was like a little.
You should talk to somebody. You should talk to someone about that.
Yeah.
True.
I can relate to a little bit of that though, even though I haven't done it myself. So Mandy had elbow surgery when she was a junior in college, like March of her junior year in college, because she had this elbow that there were a couple of instances, things that happened, like she got kicked off a horse, and then something happened in volleyball when she was in high school or in middle school or whatever. And anyway, she had this elbow that would like randomly just pop out of place. And so finally she had this opportunity to get the surgery done in Iowa City. She goes in and they like this decently long surgery. They took a tendon out of her wrist and they put it in her elbow and all this kind of stuff. She has a big scar. If you've never seen it before, it goes from like here all the way up and around. And so she was on morphine and everything afterwards. And that happened to be also within that same week, I proposed to her in our junior year.
That's how you tricked her. Oh, it all makes sense.
To this day, she says, "No, I'm pretty sure I was still high on the time." So, so I don't know. I'm still married. Got a 5-year-old. I think she still loves me. I love her. I don't.
I mean, it's legally binding.
It's legally binding. So she's stuck.
You're in it now, you know.
But yeah, so she had this. So she had her thing in her arm in a sling, and we went down to this little pond and asked her to marry. And she had the bag that had morphine in it or whatever that could, the drip. So she still had that on too. And yeah.
She was truly drugged.
Oh yeah.
She said yes. Oh my God, I've never heard this story. I love this.
Bypass the machine, turn up that morphine. Oh, of course I'll marry you.
Yeah, that's not what they mean when they use the term liquid courage.
Ooh.
You're just like walking down to the pond and you just like had your arm around her and you're just like, let me turn this up just a little bit more.
That's what it was. Turn this up. Hey.
So.
Of course. So pretty. Yes.
Wow, I got to talk to your wife. Wow.
Yeah. Have a conversation with her. So that might or might not be embarrassing. I don't know. Well, I think we've had a good show of embarrassing stories. I don't know about you guys. That's good stuff.
Been great.
2 thumbs way up.
The most thumbs. I think that's 6 thumbs. But
a lot. Yeah.
A lot of thumbs. So we want to thank everybody for joining in on another episode of Banter. I'm old.
I'm bald.
And I'm your guest, Lazy.
Want to thank you, everyone. Thank you, Miss Lazy, for joining us. We appreciate it. We're still looking for ideas for episodes, future episodes, people. So feel free to post that in the comments. Let us know what you thought of tonight's episode. We'll share more stuff. We're trying to add on more. We did the awesome live show last week. Might do another one of those. We got to come up with a timeline and topic and all that fun stuff. But if you want to be a guest, also give us a shout. We are experts at exactly
nothing
at all. So again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you again next week.